Have you been to Express lately? People can't get enough of their clothes. They're like instant confidence boosters. The jeans come in a temp control fabric that keeps you comfortable no matter the weather. And the t-shirts, hands down, they'll feel like they're made of the softest fabric you've ever worn. And get this, the suits have stretch and look sharp. Like, what? How do they do that? Everyone's raving about the newest looks from Express. Just check out the 5-star reviews. See for yourself and shop the latest at express.com and in stores.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to the danjohnuniversity.com podcast. This is episode number 83. I'm so glad you're here. Remember now, if you like what you're hearing, you can get this and a lot more over there at danjohnuniversity.com. Sign up for the free 2-week membership. Or if you just want to do something a little bit smaller, go to Patreon and sign up at Coach Dan John. Welcome and hello. We have a great question from Dustin to start everything off. Dustin basically says this: I turned 40 in April, and I have 2 boys, 4 and 5. I was about, time-wise, we were about the same with my daughters. In the past, I've tried to seek out new challenges to train for, such as training for a marathon, increasing my deadlift, improving my mile time, etc. I like those different options there. There's some brilliance there. However, my only goal right now is to be able to keep up with the boys as they get older. Recently, I've been using your programs, such as Easy Strength for Olympic Lifting and the Transformation Program, which are really good options to stay young and explosive, so that I can maintain my athleticism. Besides the obvious answer of play, thanks for taking the best answer, do you have any advice on how to make sure I can keep up with the boys in whatever athletic pursuits they challenge me with in the upcoming years? Well, sure, Dustin, but don't let me dismiss play yet. With my grandchildren, who are just a little bit older than your boys, Josephine and I play catch with the football every time I see her. Danny and I kick the ball back and forth. When they ride their bicycles outside, I ride my bicycle outside. If you take them to a park and they're doing monkey bars, do monkey bars with them. If there's a balance beam with them. I can't say enough of the importance of you as a role model for their health, fitness, longevity, and performance. But I want to add 2 more things. And this all comes from an interesting afternoon, a long time ago. I was a sophomore in college. Eric Subert and I were going up to the Pacifica Barbell Club, Dick's place. And my motorcycle was broken and we didn't have a car. So we had to walk to the bottom of Westboro Boulevard and then hitchhike all the way up to the top of Pacifica, Sharps Park, and walk down the hill, jump over the fence in Dick's backyard, work out, and then to come home, jump over the fence, walk up this massive hill, hitchhike home, and then walk the 2 miles. Well, this guy picked this up, and Eric and I were talking about something stupid. Maybe it was Three's Company or something like that. And we asked the guy, do you watch Three's Company? He goes, I don't have a television. And we thought that was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And the guy told us a couple things. And I got to tell you, at first it sounded weird, but now I can't believe how much of this advice I used. He basically said that every night he grabs one of his kids and he goes for a walk. And the kids always fight. I don't want to go. I want to play Yahtzee or read this comic book or whatever they were doing. And he said that by the time they got out, it was only a few feet. By the time they're out of sight of the front door, all of a sudden the kid would start talking about school. And there's a bully at school, or there's a interesting project on Martin Luther King going on at school, or there is talking about the Revolutionary War. I don't know, a poem. It doesn't matter. And even if the walk was a minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, the child just kind of unpacked what was going on in their life. And he said, it's weird because every time we went on the walk, our relationship got a little deeper. I knew what was going on in the life. I knew it was what was up and what was down. I think that was brilliant. And so first off, take one, doesn't have to be every single night, but a couple nights a week, grab one of them, take a walk, and just let it happen. The second thing is, and this is a lesson I learned from this, the first lesson, No TV on school nights in our home. Sunday through Thursday nights, no television. I would also reach out and say no internet. None of this stuff, okay? My daughters weren't allowed to watch TV on school nights, so basically they'd go to bed by 8:30 throughout most of their lives. So they were sleeping 10 and 11 hours through elementary, middle, and high school. I think it helped them athletically. In fact, I can almost know that's for sure. But I know it helped them academically. Um, those are just two ideas. I mean, and, but I think being a good parent and keeping yourself as a role model for fitness, health, longevity, performance, fat loss, and blah, 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 is walking with them. The great line out of the Gospel of Luke, chapter 24, walking with somebody. Boy, I hope this all works for you, Dustin. You're in for the adventure of your life. So good luck to you, okay? And thank you. Bye-bye. We have a question from John. What a nice name. Outside of a training program incorporating Dan's favorite exercises of lunges and heavy Turkish get-ups, you may wipe the sarcasm off the screen now. Yeah, I'll wipe you. Was wondering what you'd recommend for correcting asymmetrical leg strength after knee surgery, quadriceps tendon repair. I'm 3 months out from surgery, and I am cleared for strength training, not cleared for running or sprinting, but I am cleared for strength training as long as I'm not an idiot. And that's always the $1 million one, isn't it? That idiot part. Hey, listen, I had a nice talk with a physical therapist a while ago. I mentioned this in some of my podcasts and workshops. But he asked a nice question. He said, so how did we do as physical therapists? And I kind of, I said, you guys are really good at the red light. I use the semaphore, red, yellow, green. And I said, when I recover from surgery, you guys are there. You help turn me on the bed. I got all that stuff plugged into me in all kinds of places I don't want to talk about. And then I stand up and you show me how to use a walker. You show me how to use crutches. You teach me how to use the bar on the stairs, the banister. You're good at that. And I think you're real good later on saying you're fine. It's that middle part, the yellow, you're not very good at. And you are definitely in the yellow light situation right now. And I said, and this is where I came up with that idea of the bag of groceries. You come home to cook Thanksgiving dinner, and you got 18 bags of groceries, and they weigh a fair amount each one of them. How are you going to carry them into the house? Well, for me, and there's 10 stairs, not 10 flights of stairs, 10 stairs. For me, I'm just going to load up all 18 of them and carry them up that flight of stairs. Someone listening is going, that's stupid. I would carry one at a time and have 180 stairs versus all that load. Well, between 18 bags at once and 18 round trips, that's what I call work capacity. That ability to pick and choose, have a matrix of options. And right now you're in that matrix of options time. So one of the things you have to do is build your work capacity. Here's the thing. You can probably train your upper body as hard as you ever have. Of course, I would kind of push you over to the machine world a little bit, just so you don't have to worry about stability on the leg. But the nice thing is when you are doing hypertrophy or strength work, those hormones that are bouncing around to repair your deltoids and your pecs, they're also swimming downstairs to help your leg recover. I would train your non-surgical leg as hard as you can. Now, it is true, the stronger leg is going to get stronger. But again, you're pumping through all that stuff, and it's all good for you. And you got to do what you can do with the injury recovery. I'm a big fan of the machines, and I know someone's going to say leg extensions are bad for you, but they're fine for a short period. Leg curls, some kind of modified leg press. I was thinking about this when I read this question. If you have a glute loop, clamshells and hip thrusts, pushing those knees apart, that little bit of isometric pressure on the outside of the knee is going to be good for you. I wouldn't sprint into doing goblet squats or overhead squats or anything, or, leaping off of buildings or anything. But at 3 months, you're still in the period where you've got to build your work capacity back up. So anything you can do is a step forward, and take your time, do what you can do, really push what you can push, and then just be gentle and smart on what you can't push. Boy, I hope that helps. I've been there. I know what it's like. And good luck to you, okay? Thank you. So Conley has a question for us. That's a great name, Conley. I'm a 34-year-old programmer who played sports in high school and college, but spent the past 10 years regressing into a shell of my former self. I have decided to commit to a proper strength and conditioning program, but after some testing in the weight room, I found that my mobility, if you can call that, is on par with your average shuffling geriatric. Ouch, that hurt my feelings. My hamstrings, hip flexors, and groin are all especially tight, and the prospect of getting into the proper position to execute squats and even deadlifts is non-existent. 8 to 10 hours a day at the computer has definitely caught up with me. Can you please give me a roadmap how I can begin to unpretzel myself? A side note, I am 6'5" and 220. The fact that you're only 220 is kind of impressive at 6'5", considering you said you let 10 years go. But I do want to talk about this, the mobility issue. I wish I had known a little bit about your sleep pattern, but in my 1, 2, 3, 4 assessment, question number 1 and 3 is how many pillows does it take for you to sleep comfortably at night? And if you're more than one, you're a mobility client. You've already told me that you're a mobility client. And what's interesting is that what's stiff on you really does tie in to that older work of Yonda and with the tonic and phasic muscles. I still believe that that's a good model to start with. And I know there's some psychopaths online who are not good people who attack Yonda's work. And they're afraid to raise their hand when I point them out at workshops. I would suggest as best you can is to think about you training with me. I'm 63, and at my age, I need hypertrophy and mobility work. To undo these last 10 years, I'd like to see us play back and forth a little bit here with doing some hypertrophy work, especially any kind of vertical press. So military, one arm press, however you work it out, you can figure it out. And any glute work you can do, that could be deadlifts. At your height, I would recommend rack deadlifts. Start off with maybe 1 inch above the knee. So really, and boy, there's your start. Rack deadlifts and military presses 5 days a week. Power to the People program, easy strength style. And then between every set, do a hip flexor stretch, do a reasonable hamstring stretch, do a reasonable groin stretch. Your rest periods should always be mobility work. And in fact, I recommend that really for about everybody. But, keep your reps, I don't know, anywhere between 8 and 15 reps. Train that higher rep category. And as you're recovering from that, get a little stretch on. The 2 best stretches, I'm just guessing here, but for most former athletes, is simply hanging from the bar and sitting at the bottom of the goblet squat, pushing your knees apart. Do those for 30-second bouts, maybe between sets of presses and rack deadlifts. And then for hip flexor stretch, go to my YouTube channel and look up what I've already given you. I think hip flexor stretches have to be done in a very, very specific way. I'm so glad you caught this at 34, not 44. The other thing I want you to think about is sleep. And of course, and it's so obvious, I almost forget it, your nutrition. I sure hope you're eating protein and veggies at every meal and drinking a lot of water. Conley, I hope that helps. Thank you. We have a question from Pedro. Thanks for asking, Pedro, because that's a good question. In your experience, have you noticed any differences between the rep ranges that male and female clients respond better to? And then the follow-up question is going to be, to me, is seamless with the first question. Do you make any adjustments depending on the gender of the client? Well, let's do this first. Let's talk about equipment. The bench press in most facilities, the bench is far too high for the lower leg, the shank of most females. Yeah, I know we put the 45-pound plates or we put blocks underneath it. Why don't we just get benches that are more appropriate to women? When you work with kettlebells, especially the early kettlebells, my God, the handles were this thick. And that's way too big for a lot of females' hands. Now we have the much thinner handled ones, and I applaud it vigorously. I have a female Olympic lifting bar, and it was a game changer for me coaching the Olympic lifts with females. Yeah, it's a touch lighter, but it's a little bit thinner. So equipment is a big issue when we talk about females, and we've got to do a better job, but we've seen a lot of progress. When you talk to women about squatting, very often they'll say, there's no pin position for me to put a squat rack. There's a gap between, like, I don't know, 5 foot and 5'8", and a lot of women are in that middle part. So there you go. The most important thing I ever read was the physiology of strength, and the author Heidinger has these concentric circles. So the first one is down here over the hips and stomach or waist or whatever. And the thing that the German researchers discovered is that women can get about 80% as strong as men there. So, if you got a guy squatting naturally 500, it's believable you could occasionally find a woman who could squat 400. Those are good sized numbers. And I'm talking about squatting, not the stuff I see on the internet. But it's weird. So you got 80% adherent. And as the concentric circles moved out, women relative to men got weaker. And this really helped me as a coach, because this little extensor here, the forearm extensor, women can only get about 55% as strong as men. So what does that mean? Well, if I'm teaching a bunch of young people how to throw the shot put, the boys and girls will both be able to rotate or glide on day one, but the girls need a little extra work with lighter balls on that flip. So, you could use a softball or load it up to maybe a 1 kilo ball or 2 kilo ball. But women need extra time as throwers to get that movement done, especially when you add the ballistic of the glide or the rotation to it. So you have to be aware that women are going to be a little bit weaker in certain areas in training. The concentric circle model is magnificent than men in some areas. But that leads us to the issue between the belly button and the chin, and that's the problem women have with most, especially upper body pushing stuff, the press family. I always think about Mindy, who could bench 140 for a single. That's impressive. But she could bench 135 for 10. And one of the great things I picked up is that women's max and rep scheme is radically different for men, especially when it comes to upper body push and even pull in some cases, most cases, I think. So you can't use any magic numbers. A female lifter, especially early, might be able to get 10 reps with a weight, and then when you jump up just a little bit, barely can get one. And so when you're programming the female athlete, client, you just have to keep in mind that the press, especially, is always going to be, and I'm going to say odd, but don't read into that. If you have, like I have, I've been lifting since 1965. I didn't start coaching women until 78. So I'm relatively new at it, only 44 years of coaching women. It takes a while to stop making these assumptions about women and pressing. You can't use percents. It's very difficult to use percents. I have modified many of my best programs to work with women, and famously with my daughters when their daughters in that team when they were in high school. This is over a decade ago. How I had to change one of my most standard Olympic lifting programs to fit the female athlete, And I had friends look at it and go, this is unrecognizable from the magic program that I had given them. And I go, no, it's not. It's reasonable and acceptable for what I'm doing with the females. Now that you can go up half a kilo and a kilo on an Olympic barbell, things are miles better. But when you had to make, 5-pound jumps only with the Olympic bar, and that's if you had the 2.5s and they weren't broken, that became difficult. Pedro, I hope that helps. I'd like to let you know that I think about this a lot, and I'm trying to do my best, both as with my voice and my actions to get us farther along. So thank you. Excellent question. We have a question from Stuart. My kilt is Royal Stuart. I know you've mentioned to people about really owning a kettlebell weight if you're unable to get a heavier one to get the most out of it. I was wondering if it's worth doing this anyway in the long run, rather than trying to always move up in weight. Wow, Stuart, I like that, because that is the classic tradition that I actually grew up with, is that at gyms, they had fixed barbells, there was a 75-pound barbell next to an 80-pound barbell next to a 90. And so if we were bench pressing, I had to walk over the rack, pick up the 75, walk over to the rack, stick it up there, do my lift, whatever the lift was, walk it back, put it back in. And they always stood up like this. Oh, that's a while ago. And the one thing you had to do is you had to be cognizant of, you had to be able to master that weight. And the strongman tradition is basically what I just said. You follow up with this. I like the idea of going back to my 16 kilo kettlebell and mastering the kneeling bottoms up press, for example, or am I unlikely to get any more benefits than I would from a standard overhead press with a heavier bell? Remember, the foundation of getting strong is tension, learning to use tension, learning to light it up and let it go. Let it go, bring it back, let it go. I think track and field, especially my events, are a study of that. So I like your idea of doing the half kneeling bottoms up, because that's going to force you to have tension throughout the whole system. While that bell is bottoms up like this, it's going to be doing it. You're going to be fighting all that. Being in the half kneeling position, your pelvis is going to be fighting all over the place. I like the idea. I don't want you to think either or on this. Both of these have value. In fact, one of my favorite things, if someone can't press a bell, is I have them clean it 2 hands and walk around in the rack position it. Clean it 2 hands, use both hands to drive it up, and then walk around in the waiter's walk position with it. Okay? And the idea is that walking, that training with the heavier bell is going to help you long-term with your strength. So try not to get either or on me, but I like where your head's at. Thank you, Stuart. So we have a question from Jason. On the Easy Strength for Fat Loss program, how important is that the walk begin immediately after the strength exercises? This comes from Rusty Moore at this point. So the weightlifting frees up free fatty acids, and then the walk burns them up. Your question is good. Let's continue on, because you're about to do something that I think is more important than what I recommend. My neighborhood is not conducive to walking, so I typically load up the dog, the baby, and the jogging stroller and drive to a local park to walk. It's a 5 to 10 minute drive plus loading time. Will delaying the walk like this diminish the effectiveness of the program? Okay, I just drop in right now. Jason, the fact that you're with your dog and your baby is far more important than the effectiveness of the program. And long term, your memory of this walking is much more important than whether you lose, I was going to say the most minimum of the difference in what you're doing and what I'm recommending for fat loss. I'm not sure it would be measurable. I need a much better scale. But I love the idea of walking your dog and baby. Should I maybe save the kettlebell swings until after I get to the park to ramp my heart rate back up? Or I could modify the exercise to the strength routine could be done at the park: ab wheel, half kneeling press, chin up, single leg, and swings. What do you think? Is there an alternative that I'm missing? Here's the alternative. Do the workout. Trust me, getting a dog and a baby in a car is going to keep your heart rate up. Getting a dog and a baby out of a car, onto a leash, into a stroller, that's going to raise your heart rate. No, I think, Jason, you're doing just fabulous. And it makes me happy that you've included me in your family walk. So you're fine. Just fine. In fact, I'm impressed that you're doing all this. So work out, get the collar the dog and collar the baby, go to the park, walk, enjoy. You'll probably end up walking farther some days than all of us who do the program as written. Good luck to you, Jason. Boy, you're in a good place right now. Thank you. We have a question from Scott. Hi, Scott. I have a question related to programming. Do you advocate for accessory work with your workouts? I don't know if a question could be more vague and broad. In powerlifting, you got Marty Gallagher, who's a big proponent of just doing the core, though his coach, Hugh Cassidy, did accessory work. If you're from the Louis Simmons West Side School, accessory work is a very important thing. As an Olympic lifter, and if you're training for the Olympics and you're on the Chinese team, you're going to do accessory work. If you're an Olympic lifter and you're on the Iranian team, you're not going to do accessory work. So it really depends. Here's the thing. For the bulk of the people who listen to me, I would say, even if you are focusing on the power lifts and the Olympic lifts, that little bit of hypertrophy work, maybe after a snatch and clean and jerk workout, you add some curls and tricep extensions and whatever, I think long term, that little bit of hypertrophy and mobility and joint work is going to pay off. I don't know if it's going to help your Olympic lifts at all, but if you're thinking about long-term health and longevity, yeah, it's worth your time. So my answer is yes for almost everybody listening. And be very careful for that small percent that's into performance. Thank you. Okay, this next question is going to cause all kinds of people to comment down here, telling me how wrong I am. But trust me, you asked my opinion, so that's what you're getting. If these other people want to start their own podcasts and put them up for free on the internet, go ahead and do it. But at least listen to what I'm trying to say. We have a question from Patrick. I am considering purchasing a Concept 2 rower and would like your opinion on them. Would this be a good investment in my home gym? No. What? Yeah, I bought a Concept 2 rower. I got the E, and you know where it is? It's across the street at my neighbor's house. He can't train in the winter. He's a cyclist, so I loan it to him every winter. I had loaned that out for almost 3 months, and not a single person in our training group noticed. It cost me $1,300 when I was teaching. When I needed kettlebells, I called up a supplier. For $1,200, I got 107 kettlebells. Patrick, if your home gym has 107 kettlebells, I'm guessing you have enough kettlebells. I don't see the cost to benefit ratio of it. Now, listen, I've got the books that say row an hour a day. I get it. My good friend Val, who's just a marvelous young lady, my friend Dan Martin, and others do the rower constantly, and hats off to you. For most of us, though, it just becomes a coat rack. Years ago, there was that study about treadmills here in the United States. The average use of a treadmill is 7.2 times. The rest of the time, it holds your clothes. And people are paying $4,000 and $5,000 for treadmills to use it 7 times. Listen, if you can't walk around the block, you're not going to use a treadmill. Yeah, I'm not a fan of them because the cost to benefit ratio doesn't work out for me. And again, you're going to get all the people saying, oh, whoa. I've had way too many conversations with people, good people, people I trust who said the same thing. I'm not being a jerk, and I'm sure this company is not going to be sending me any t-shirts, but that's my opinion, and that's just what I've seen. I use the Dan John workout generator 3 days a week and would like to add some cardio on the other days. I mean, if that's what you want to do, go ahead, but I would take my time. I mean, I have those little weights that I do heavy hands with. I get more benefit out of walking around the block a few times with weights in my hand than I did from any of that Concept 2 stuff. I get it if you want to be the world champion indoor racer. That's what you want to do. Good for you. I just can't defend it. Your mileage may vary, but you asked me for an honest answer, Patrick, and you know how I can't help myself but be honest. Thank you. We have a question from Ben. I have been following Easy Strength for several months now with great results. Well, good. My deadlift has been single leg light kettlebell lifts to improve a muscle imbalance and overall stability. I now feel happy to increase the load and want to ask you a question. You may ask me a question, Ben. I plan to continue progressing single legs, but on opposite days start doing two-legged deadlifts. What are the pros and cons in either using a kettlebell or barbell for deadlifts? As a rule of thumb, is one better than the other? Okay, just remember, I'm not a fan of single leg barbell deadlifts. Two things about kettlebell deadlifts. I like if your left foot is down, you hold the bell in your right hand. We call that the suitcase position. And when you drop that, as the bell comes down because you hinge, we call that filling the hole because your arm is filling the hole where the leg should be. That's number one thing. That's what we like to do. That's what I think is the best way to do it. The other thing is when you're doing single leg work, I like you to put your finger either on a wall, on a rack, or even holding a string from the ceiling so that your balance gets taken care of by this external thing. I hate it when I watch people doing single leg stuff and their down leg, their knee is shaking all over the place. To me, that's just an invitation to injury. But when you do the barbell, it's two hands, two legs for most people, almost all the time. I have a friend, his book is back there, who hurt himself permanently doing a circus trick, a single leg with a barbell, and he's done. I mean, he's bought the ticket with that injury. There's a lot of deadlift variations I like. I like the traditional with the mixed grip. I like the clean grip. I like the snatch grip. Those all change the position of your back. I like the heels together one, sometimes called the duck deadlift. We called it something else, but it's out of my head now. I like rack deadlifts. I like deadlifts off boxes. I think those are great. I also like the Jefferson lift. That's when you step over the bar with one foot and then you put your hands on the bar. It's I think that's also called the straddle lift in some places. My friend Ben did a great job. Oh, my other friend Ben did a great job doing these with an Easy Strength protocol. If you do the Jefferson straddle lift, I would suggest a set of 5 with your hand, with your left leg forward, a set of 5 with your right leg forward. And it is true, if you go online, you might find different variations for the Jefferson and the straddle. But I know what I'm talking about, but it doesn't matter what option you pick. I think the idea of moving through variations on the deadlift is a great idea. I like the idea of starting in the rack, and I don't know, spend a couple of weeks, an inch above the knee, getting as strong as you can. Lower it to an inch below the knee. Then, dropping the barbell on the ground and doing heels together deadlifts. Then after a couple of weeks of that, putting your hand, normal stance, hands out at the snatch grip. You'll constantly have to rethink load and you'll get sore in places you never thought. Weirdly, I include the snatch grip deadlift as part of my armor building programs because people get weirdly sore in places that you often get collisioned in American football. So there you go. Very good question, and thanks for asking. it's funny. I'm reading this and it's like, yeah, I should do that too. So I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Ben. Well, there you go. Another episode of the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. Now, remember, if you have questions, email them to podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com, and I'll do my best to answer each and every one, okay? Now, remember, too, on YouTube, I'm sneaking up on 1,900 videos. So very often, I've already answered your question. We're working right now on a playlist so that you can go in and say, okay, this, whatever. If you have a question about mass made simple versus easy strength, we'll delineate for you. Sadly, we should have done this on the very first day, but here we go, trying to backfill an issue that's come up in the past few years. Thank you again, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
This isn't just any day, it's the day. The day you welcome new people to your team, or welcome an idea that changes everything. Wherever your day takes you, Comcast Business can help. With a network that can deliver gig speeds to most businesses, Comcast Business Security Edge to help protect your connected devices, and expert support 24/7. Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business will keep you ready for what's next. Comcast Business, powering possibilities. It's a new day, and it's coming at you fast. With Comcast Business, you'll have what you need to take on every twist and turn, like the flexibility to control multiple Wi-Fi networks from anywhere, a cybersecurity solution to help protect all your connected devices, and the power of the nation's largest gig speed network, all supported by a dedicated team available 24/7. Every day in business is a big day. Comcast Business will keep you ready for what's next. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.